Since I didn't require constant attention, I was always the other daughter. In our own house, I struggled with invisibility as my younger sister, Sarah, fought asthma. Every morning began the same way. I got ready for school while Mom hurried to Sarah's room to check on her breathing. "How are you feeling today, Sarah, honey?" Mom would remark, "Let me take your temperature," in a worried tone. "Remember to bring your inhaler. Would you like me to give Dr. Thompson a call?" I recall observing this everyday routine while I was standing at the doorway, already clothed and prepared for school. I always ate whatever I could make for lunch, which was often just an apple and a sandwich. All of Sarah's favorite dishes were included in specially prepared dinners. Dad was no exception. He put in extra hours at work to cover Sarah's medical expenses, and he focused all of his attention on her when he got home. On his approach to Sarah's room, he would completely ignore me and inquire, "How's my little fighter doing?" Year after year, the trend persisted. As Sarah transitioned between specialists, I developed self-care skills. I packed my own luggage for school excursions, completed my assignments without assistance, and learned how to handle adolescent issues on my own. Mom never worked because she was too busy advocating for Sarah and serving as her personal nurse. By my senior year, I had a well-defined strategy and flawless marks. My parents were too busy taking Sarah to yet another expert to assist with college applications, so I applied for scholarships behind their backs. I was so happy to deliver the news that I rushed home the day I received my full scholarship letter. Mom was in the kitchen making Sarah's special allergy-free supper when I arrived. I received full tuition to State University. Mom, Dad and you won't be required to pay anything. It's pleasant, my love. Would you be able to arrange the table? Sarah's new meds require her to eat at specific times. For me, that moment made everything clear. I understood that no matter what I accomplished, I would never be the first priority in this household. However, I chose to use it as fuel rather than to let it break me. I had something greater, and I didn't need their praise or attention. I was free. Mom was too preoccupied with Sarah's most recent medical emergency to give me a decent farewell on the day I departed for college. Dad merely gave me some cash for gas and told me to drive carefully. College went by so quickly. I poured myself into my studies, finished with honors, and made my first true friends. I was employed by Reynolds and Company's marketing department immediately after college, and all of a sudden I was making more money than I had ever seen in my life. During college, I hadn't heard much from my parents. Mom would sometimes email me to check on me before diving right into reports about Sarah's most recent health problems. However, when I started working, that changed. I had been working for around 6 months when I received the first contact. Mom said, "Erica, honey," in a lovely, saccharine tone that I had never heard her use before. "I'm in a bit of a bind with your father. With the medical expenses and the fact that Sarah requires some additional treatments." I interrupted her. "How much do you need, Mom?" "Oh, only $2,000. We'll reimburse you the next month." They never reimbursed me for that loan, the one after that, or the one before that. But to be honest, I didn't give a damn. I had something people needed for the first time in my life, and I felt a weird feeling of fulfillment from that. Then I got to know Mike. He always had a positive outlook and made me giggle. After a year of dating, he popped the question in the break room while concealing a ring in a coffee cup. "Oh, but Sarah's having some health issues right now," was Mom's immediate reaction when we told my folks we were getting married. "We might not be able to make a significant contribution." Decisively, "We don't need anything," I informed her. "We're handling it ourselves." And we did. With only our closest friends, we held a modest yet lovely wedding. After paying for everything on our own and enjoying a low-key beach honeymoon, Mike and I returned prepared to start a family. Both of us put in a lot of effort and saved as much money as we could. We saved enough for a tiny apartment down payment in 2 years. It was fully paid off 3 years later. Mike once stated, "We should have a baby," as we were sitting on our balcony and taking in the sunset. I looked at him, this amazing man who had given me unconditional love, support, and a genuine partnership, things I had never had as a child. "Yes," I said, "we should." Perfect and healthy, Em was born on a spring morning. Mike, who took photographs of everything daughter did, was the proudest father I had ever seen. He received a significant promotion at work when she was 2 months old. Just one business trip, he informed me before planting a kiss on Emily's brow. 3 days in Chicago, then I'm all yours again. That morning, I took him to the train station. I didn't see him again after that. I received a call from the train corporation, not Mike. An accident had occurred. There was a derailed train. No one survived. The initial weeks following Mike's passing were a haze. Feeling half dead on the inside, I went about my days as if I were a ghost, feeding Emily, changing her, and doing everything else to keep us both alive. The insurance company contacted with information regarding Mike's life insurance policy, but at that moment, I needed assistance more than money. "Mom," I murmured in a broken voice on the phone, "this cannot be done by me alone. For a few months while I recover, could you assist me with Emily? I'll give you any amount you desire." The other end paused for a long moment. Mom responded, "Oh, honey," and I briefly felt hopeful. "You know, I'm not as young as I used to be," she said. "Given how stressful caring for a newborn is, I just cannot jeopardize my health given my blood pressure. Perhaps you could employ someone, Erica. You now own the insurance funds, correct?" I felt like I was slapped by the words. I reflected on the years Mom had spent caring for Sarah, how she had never been able to work since Sarah required her whole attention. However, I answered bluntly, yeah, when her other daughter and grandchild needed her. I'll figure something out. And I did. Maria, the lovely nanny I found, cherished Emily as if she were her own. With the help of the insurance money, I was able to provide my baby with the greatest care possible, and we gradually adapted to our new normal. Emily's smile expanded every day as she matured from a baby to a toddler. The call regarding Sarah's engagement then came. "Your sister is marrying James Peterson," Mom said over the phone. "That large real estate development firm is owned by his family. Is it not unbelievable?" I remarked, "That's great," as I observed Emily stacking blocks on the floor of our living room. I'm happy for her. But the next call wasn't so joyful. Dad sounded stressed. "Erica, we need to talk about Sarah's wedding. We're taking out a loan using the house as collateral." When he told me the amount, I felt sick. "Dad, no. That's your house, your retirement security. You can't risk that for one day." "Now listen here," he said, his voice taking on that stern tone I remembered from childhood. "We won't have the Petersons thinking we can't give Sarah a proper wedding. We've already signed the papers." I tried reasoning with them. I offered to help pay for a more modest celebration, but Mom just got offended. "You don't understand, Erica. This is Sarah's big day. She deserves her dream wedding. We can't have her future in-laws thinking we're common." I thought about my own wedding. Small, modest, perfect. Mike and I had paid for everything ourselves, proud to start our life together without debt. But of course, Sarah needed something grander. Sarah always needed more. Sarah's wedding was exactly what you'd expect, extravagant, over the top, and according to Mom, absolutely perfect. Then Sarah moved away with James to Boston, and suddenly my parents' perfect daughter wasn't so perfect anymore. Can you believe she won't even take our calls? Mom sobbed into the phone one evening. We took out that loan for her wedding, and now she won't even help with the payments. I bit back and I told you so, and instead said, "That must be hard, Mom." Gradually, my parents started calling more often, not just when they needed money. They wanted to see Emily, invited us for Sunday dinners, remembered my birthday. For the first time in years, it felt nice, like maybe we could be a real family. I started helping them out, paying bills here and there, buying groceries. For Dad and Mom's 35th wedding anniversary, I surprised them with a vacation to Florida and a new car for Dad. "You're such a good daughter, Erica," Mom said, actually hugging me. It was the first time I could remember her doing that in years. Then Dad got sick, really sick. Something with his heart kept him out of work for months. One evening, they asked me to come over after Emily's bedtime. "We're going to lose the house," Dad said, his voice weak. "The loan payments, without my salary." Mom was crying. "We don't know what to do, Erica. We're behind on payments already." "Move in with us," Mom suggested. "Suddenly, we could help with Emily after school, and you could help with the loan payments. Please, sweetheart, we don't want to lose our home." I thought about my apartment, my independence, the life I'd built for myself and Emily. "I don't know, Mom. It's an hour commute to work from here." "Pleased," Dad said, and I saw real fear in his eyes. "We'll make it work. Emily would love having her grandparents around." They were right about that part. When I told Emily we might move in with Grandma and Grandpa, her whole face lit up. Within a month, we were moved in. I found good tenants for my apartment, a young couple with steady jobs who signed a year-long lease. Emily was overjoyed, running around the house, exploring every corner like it was a magical castle. I took over the loan payments and most of the household expenses. Mom seemed to transform overnight into the grandmother she'd never been before, picking Emily up from school, helping her with homework, making her favorite snacks. "Look what Grandma made for you, Emily," she'd say, pulling fresh cookies from the oven. Emily would beam, and I'd try not to remember all the times I'd come home to an empty kitchen as a child. For a while, it seemed to work. Dad's health improved, though slowly. I adjusted to the long commute, telling myself it was worth it to see Emily so happy. Every month when I made the loan payment, I reminded myself that I was helping my parents keep their home. But there was always this nagging feeling in the back of my mind, a voice that whispered, "How long can this last? When will the other shoe drop?" After Dad recovered and returned to work, I noticed Mom started making excuses about watching Emily. "My back hurts today, Erica. I'm not as young as I used to be. It's so exhausting keeping up with a child her age." Finally, one morning, she just came out with it. "I think you should hire a nanny. I can't handle this anymore." So I hired Karen, a sweet older lady who clicked with Emily immediately. Every morning, I'd leave for my hour-long commute to work, wondering why I was still living in my parents' house when I had a perfectly good apartment across town. But every time I mentioned moving back, Mom would bake her famous apple pie, the one she knew Emily loved, and say things like, "Oh, but we love having you both here. Don't we live so well together?" Emily would beam, her face covered in apple filling, and I pushed down my frustration for another month. This went on for 2 years. Then one evening, Mom and Dad sat me down after Emily went to bed. "Honey," Mom started, her eyes already welling up, "we still have 2 years left on Sarah's wedding loan." Dad jumped in. "We know it's a lot to ask, but could you stay until it's paid off? We're so close to being free of it." I thought about the exhausting commute, the way my life had been put on hold. But then I thought about Emily's happy face when she talked about living with her grandparents. Okay, I said, 1 more year. I called my tenants and extended their lease. Then came the day that changed everything. I walked up to the house after another long day at work, and there was Sarah, standing in the doorway with a very pregnant belly. "Move away from the door, Sarah," Mom screeched from inside. "You'll catch your death in that draft." Sarah smirked at me as she stepped aside. Well, well, look who's here. Inside, it was like stepping back in time. Mom was fluttering around Sarah like a worried hen, adjusting pillows, checking her temperature, asking if she needed anything. "I made your favorite dinner, Sarah, and there's herbal tea for the baby." During dinner, Sarah dropped her bomb. "I've decided to have the baby here," she announced, "so you and Dad can help with the newborn." Mom's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Of course we will. We'll help with everything." I sat there, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, as the memory hit me like a physical blow. Me, alone with 3-month-old Emily, desperately calling Mom after Mike's death. You know I can't risk my health taking care of a baby, Erica. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw with perfect clarity what I'd been trying to ignore for years. Nothing had changed. Nothing would ever change. Sarah would always be the one who needed them, and I would always be the one who needed to understand. For the next 2 weeks, I watched history repeat itself in excruciating detail. Mom waited on Sarah hand and foot, bringing her breakfast in bed, scheduling doctor's appointments, and stocking the house with her favorite foods. The monthly apple pie that had been Mom's way of keeping Emily and me there stopped appearing altogether. The final straw came one evening when I overheard Mom and Sarah discussing nursery plans for my room and Emily's room. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into the living room where everyone was gathered. "So that's it. You're just going to pretend the last few years never happened. That Sarah didn't abandon you with a massive loan that I've been helping pay." Sarah rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go, Saint Erica to the rescue. "Sarah, honey, don't get upset. It's not good for the baby. Mom fussed." "No, let's talk about this," I pressed on. "Let's talk about how you mortgaged your house for her wedding, and then she disappeared. Let's talk about how I've been paying that loan while she was off living her best life." "That's none of your business," Sarah snapped. "Nobody asked you to pay anything. If you're so unhappy here, why don't you just go back to your precious apartment?" "Erica," Mom cut in, practically pushing me toward the door. "Why don't you run to the store? We need a few things." She thrust a shopping list into my hands. "It'll give everyone a chance to calm down." I felt like a child being sent to my room, but I went. Maybe the fresh air would help me think clearly. 20 minutes later, I returned with the groceries. The sight that greeted me stopped me cold. Emily was sitting on the front steps, crying, surrounded by hastily packed bags and boxes, all our belongings. "Mommy." She ran to me, sobbing. Aunt Sarah yelled at me. She said we had to get out, and when I started crying, she scared me and pushed all our stuff out here. Something snapped inside me. I stormed into the house. "How dare you?" I shouted. "How dare you treat my daughter like this?" "Erica, calm down," Dad started. "No, I will not calm down. For years, I've watched you favor Sarah. When Mike died and I needed help with Emily, you couldn't be bothered. But Sarah snaps her fingers and you jump. I paid your bills, your loan, helped save your house, and this is how you repay me. By throwing my child out." "Now listen here," Mom began. "No, you listen. I spent my entire life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who's supposed to understand when Sarah needs something. I've given you everything, and you've given me nothing but scraps of attention when Sarah wasn't around to demand it. I grabbed the grocery bags and hurled them across the room. Cans rolled across the floor, eggs cracked, and vegetables scattered everywhere. Mom gasped. Sarah smirked. Dad's face turned red with anger. "Get out," he roared. "Get out of our house, and don't you dare come back." "You're no daughter of ours," Mom added, her voice cold. "We never want to see you again." I stood there, breathing hard, looking at these people who were supposed to be my family. Then I turned and walked out, closing the door on 28 years of trying to be good enough. Standing on the sidewalk that night, surrounded by hastily packed bags and boxes, I felt completely lost. Emily's small hand gripped mine tightly as tears rolled down her cheeks. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands, trying to think clearly. Our apartment was rented out for another year, and I couldn't just kick the tenants out legally. I needed to give them 3 months' notice. I called a nearby hotel first, then ordered an Uber XL to help with our bags. As Emily fell asleep in the hotel bed that night, I sat in the darkness with my laptop, searching for temporary apartments. The next morning, I found a furnished, month-to-month rental about 15 minutes from my office. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. I called my tenants while Emily was eating breakfast. "Hi, Lisa," I said to my tenant. "I hate to do this, but I need to give you notice. Some family circumstances have changed." Lisa was understanding. "Of course, we'll start looking right away. Take care, Erica." The next 3 months were strange. Our temporary apartment felt like living in limbo, not quite homeless, but not quite home either. Emily was quieter than usual, processing everything in her own way. Finally, after what felt like forever, Lisa called to say they'd found a new place. 3 months to the day after being thrown out of my parents' house, Emily and I walked back into our apartment. The moment I turned the key in the lock, something shifted inside me. This was our home, our safe place. No drama, no favoritism, no walking on eggshells. We were home. Emily ran from room to room, rediscovering her old toys and books we'd left behind. That night, after Emily was asleep, I sat down and really looked at our finances. We were doing well, better than well, actually. Without supporting my parents, I had extra money each month. I opened a new savings account specifically for Emily's college fund and set up automatic monthly transfers. Over the next few weeks, we settled back into our old routine. Emily went back to her old school, where her friends welcomed her back with open arms. I threw myself into work, earning a promotion I'd been too distracted to pursue while living with my parents. 6 peaceful months passed. Emily and I had found our rhythm again: school, work, movie nights, weekend adventures. No drama, no guilt, no complicated family dynamics. Just us. Then came the knock at our door one Sunday morning. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole. My heart stopped. There stood my parents, and they were holding a baby. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. "Erica, please," Mom started, crying immediately. "We need your help." Dad looked older than I remembered, more broken. "Sarah, she's gone." They told me the whole story as they stood in my doorway. I hadn't invited them in. Sarah's husband had discovered she was cheating. A DNA test proved the baby wasn't his. He divorced her and refused any responsibility for the child. And Sarah, she dropped the baby with our parents and disappeared. "We don't know where she is," Mom sobbed. "She won't answer our calls. We can't do this alone, Erica. We need you to move back in, help with the loan payments, help with the baby." "I'm too old to care for an infant," Mom added, making that familiar tired face I'd seen so many times before. "Please, sweetheart, we'll lose the house." I looked at them, really looked at them. Mom's manipulative tears, Dad's desperate eyes, the innocent baby in their arms, and suddenly I saw everything with perfect clarity. "No," I said quietly. "What?" Mom's tears stopped abruptly. I said, "No, I won't help you. Not this time. How can you be so heartless?" Mom's voice rose, echoing through the hallway. "Your own family. We'll be out on the street. They'll take our house, all because you're too selfish to help." The doors of many neighbors opened, revealing interested faces. "Mom, would you like to do this here?" "All right," I spoke steadily. "Let's discuss how you turned down my request for assistance when Mike passed away and I had a 3-month-old. Let's discuss how you mortgaged your home to finance Sarah's nuptials. In the same way that she has now abandoned her child, let's discuss how Sarah abandoned you with that debt. This is about you finally having to deal with the repercussions of your decisions, not about me being callous." Dad said, "How dare you," first. "How dare you? Your persistent bias is what brought to this circumstance. You want me to clean up your mess once more after teaching Sarah that she could do anything she wanted without facing any repercussions. Not taking place." Mom sobbed, "We're your parents." "No," I firmly answered. "You are the parents of Sarah. The night you tossed my kid out on the street, you made that very evident. Please go now and don't return. Like you did for the most of my life, forget my address, forget my phone number, and forget I'm even here." I leaned against it, panting, and shut the door on their cries. I could still hear Mom shouting through the door, but I was no longer affected. "Mommy?" Emily watched me from the corridor. "Are you okay?" I approached her and gave her a firm embrace. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm more than all right. I am at liberty." I saw my parents for the final time then. I have no idea what became of them, Sarah or the infant. Emily occasionally inquires about them, and I tell her the truth. I remind her that sometimes avoiding hurtful individuals, even if they are relatives, is the best course of action. Our lives are going well right now. Emily is doing really well in school. We're creating the type of life I've always imagined, one founded on genuine love rather than duty or manipulation, and I adore my work. I occasionally get a little depressed about what may have been when I look at old family pictures late at night. I know I made the correct decision, though, when I see Emily growing up strong and confident in the knowing that she is loved without conditions.